Well, hey fans, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Spoilers, and today we're talking spoilers for Loki. Now, Loki is a pretty good Disney Marvel show that is on Disney Plus. It is the first of the Marvel TV shows to be confirmed to be getting a season 2, which hopefully comes before Multiverse of Madness, but more than likely it'll probably come after Multiverse of Madness. But I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I believe I gave it a 4.75 on the blog. Um, I have to say there are some inconsistencies, but not too many. I really enjoyed what they did with fixing some of the issues I had with Avengers Endgame, mainly that, okay, if they go and Loki gets this Tesseract in this other timeline, it basically creates a whole branch reality where Loki escapes. But at the beginning of this, TVA comes in, capture him, take the Tesseract, and reset that timeline, which basically prunes it and removes the variation where he did that, leaving the main timeline clear. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I loved the whole feel of the TVA, and what they are and what they do. One of my issues with the TVA, which I guess is kind of explained by the end, is that they're all made up of Earth variants. We never see any. The TVA handles time in basically the entire known timeline, which encompasses the entire universe. So you would expect to see more like a Titan variant or a Skrull variant or any of the other alien races we've seen, like a Groot variant who's in the TVA and doesn't know, like, more of that would have been great, but they do mention that there are other departments. So maybe this department within the TVA only handles variants from Earth or that are located on Earth. And you do see that one Skrull in a tracksuit in the beginning, and with Secret Invasion coming up, maybe he was on Earth, which is why this department is taking care of him. And of course, at the end, we find out that He Who Remains, who is a variant of Kang, and I'll get back to him later, but he is in charge of all this, and of course, he is from Earth, so maybe that's why he chooses these human variants to run his TVA. But like I said, I thoroughly enjoy what they did with Loki. They pretty much catch him right up to speed because this Loki comes from 2012, not the one who died at the end or the beginning of Avengers Infinity War. So it's like, well, he was never a villain in my eyes. He was always some kind of anti-hero, but he became more welcoming to his brother and his relationship with him as the movies went on. But they take all that away with this younger Loki, and so it's like, well, how are they going to get that back? Basically, they show him footage of what happens to him after the events of Avengers. So he's responsible for his mother's death in Thor: The Dark World. He sees him becoming more of a hero in Thor Ragnarok, and of course his death at the hands of Thanos. So he sees all that, and that allows him to be like, oh, so I am a good guy. I should be more like, I should change up a little bit. But he doesn't completely change, which is good. He still has his mischievous side, his scheming side. He wants to somehow take control of the TVA because he realizes that all these Infinity Stones are here. They don't really work outside of a specific timeline. I think as long as you're inside time, no matter which timeline you're in, the Infinity Stones work. But when you're in the TVA, the Infinity Stones are worthless. But like I said, thoroughly enjoyed him. My favorite character who was introduced was Sylvie. Now, Sylvie is female Loki variant. And in the beginning of the show, you see when Loki's first captured, he goes through this whole process of getting checked in. They like laser off all of his clothes, so he's completely naked. He has no idea what's really going on. They make sure he has a soul and all this jazz, and puts him through the machine so he can go get judged. Now, when Sylvie was apprehended, she was like a child. So just like, and they show like part of her going through what regular Loki did, but they don't show it all. But you can imagine a child going through that same exact process, getting stripped down completely naked, not knowing if you're even truly have a soul, getting judged when you've done nothing wrong, and it's heartbreaking. So that is all. I mean, I would love to see more backstory of her. Like, is her brother, like, is the Thor of her world a girl? Did she have a sister? Did she have another, another male Thor as her brother? Like, that stuff would have been great to see as well. But I felt like that was just enough backstory to us to feel comfortable with her being on this mission of taking down the TVA for what they did to her. Um, and interesting about her, since she basically exists outside of time, we don't know how old she is. Like, she was basically like, I don't know, like, I would say 11 or 12 or so when she was taken, and now she's around the same age as regular Loki, which is like a human male around their mid 30s, which they stop aging after like adulthood. So I think our Loki at the time of Avengers was like 1,500 years old. So she looks like she's around 1,500 years old. So either A, she's been outside of time for the equivalent of 1,500 years, or she's just still not aging, and she could easily be a million years old, if not older, and has finally been able to, enact her plan. So, like, I really like that aspect. I kind of want more, you know, from that. And like I said, we're getting to season 2, so hopefully we'll find out more about her character there. Another inconsistency, I forgot about this earlier. So in the TVA, like I said, Infinity Stones don't work. Magic abilities, super strengths. Well, magic abilities and super strengths work to a degree. I don't think they work as well as they do in the main timeline. Like, Loki tries to use magic to escape when he gets there, and they laugh and like he's trying to use his magic because he can't. But later, we see Sylvie attempt magic, and it kind of starts, but it doesn't really go through. Like, she attempts to take over somebody's mind, it doesn't work, so she just has to knock him out. So I don't think it's that magic doesn't work. It's that magic is dwindled down to basically nothingness. And the only reason I think some magic still works is because Loki's appearance is due to a spell or curse or whatever put on him by Odin to make him look like an Asgardian. So if magic didn't work at all, when he arrives at the TVA, he should immediately revert back to his blue form. But he does not. He retains his Asgardian appearance throughout. So I think either if your magic is strong enough, I should say, then maybe that is what would allow him to stay looking like that, or they just allow that little bit of magic to happen. Because there are when we see images of other Loki variants in the TVA, they are blue or whatever else other forms. But that was great. The major reveal, I should say, at the end, and this is before we get to Kang, but whenever they prune someone, they basically go to the end of time and to like where this monster Eliath is, and he just kind of destroys all of the junk that's pruned. But when you prune, so they prune themselves, like, oh, they don't die, they just show up here. And this is where we meet all the other Lokis. You see like Kid Loki, President Loki, Classic Loki, Boastful Loki, who I like to call Black Loki, which is pretty cool. And and they defeat Eliath with the help from the other Lokis, and they get to, also Mobius is here because we find out later that when Loki finds out everybody who works for TVA is a variant, and he's pruned, and he ends up there. But that's how they get to He Who Remains. But the one thing I don't like about that part is, like, we only see Loki's here. Now, we do see Frog Thor trapped at one point. But in this world, all we see are Loki's, Mobius, no other variants. Like, it would have been totally a lot better if this was like a society of variants where, yes, you have a Loki and a bunch of Lokis running around, but this is the part where they should have sprinkled in a bunch of other cameos. And not like just whoever, it doesn't even have to be like the big stars. Whoever you can afford smaller stars to be like, oh yeah, uh, in this reality I became Avenger, so I got pruned, like et cetera, et cetera. It would have been great. Would have made that a lot better. But they do answer a lot of fan service, like classic Loki. He looks like the comic book version of Loki, but in his world, he survived Thanos' attempt at killing him by pretending to die and then pretending to be debris, and then pretty much isolating himself on some planet until he got lonely and said, "Well, I wonder what Thor's up to." He went to go find his brother, and the TVA showed up right as he was about to leave and pruned him. So like I said, that was all great. Kid Loki, in his world, he killed Thor, which we all know Loki. He truly loves his brother. He's jealous of him and all this stuff. But like if he killed him, it would have been by accident. Uh, like even the stuff he did to he only wanted to impress Odin, and he never even tried to kill Odin. He put like spells on him to make him forget and stuff like that. But we know he loved his mother the most. But yes, so like he killed his brother, which made him get pruned, which you can see in his eyes. He did it by accident. Um, but yeah, it's a truly touching scene between all three of them. But like after the end of time, they find the way to He Who Remains. In the final episode, which is basically all exposition, He Who Remains tells them how he wrote everything, everything that's happened in the world, and even in the TVA, and to basically find somebody who would be able to replace him. And it turned out it was these two Lokis, and he gave them a chance. He's like, "See, this is basically it. I've done this infinitely amount of times because he exists outside of time at this point. He was born in time, found multi-dimensional travel, fought with a whole bunch of versions of himself, starting the Time War or the Multiversal War, which is basically just a fight with himself. He wins, stabilizes the timeline, exists outside of time to make sure none of that happens again. And he's infinitely powerful only because he knows all of time up to a certain degree. So trying to fight him, he can just avoid all of your attacks. There's no way you can touch him. But played by Jonathan Majors, fantastic job. I can't wait to see him as Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But basically tells him, hey, look, I want you guys to replace me. You will be here. You'll control what happens in the timeline. I'll just go live my life. But, of course, Sylvie's like, no, I'm going to kill you. Do you know what you did to my family? Like, you took me from my timeline and erased it, so I'll never see any of those people again. Which, if, like, wiser heads had prevailed, she could have easily found another timeline where it would have been similar enough that she could have been inserted in. But her and Loki get into a fight, find out they love each other, which I think that's phenomenal writing. It does say something about Loki that the only person he can fall in love with is a female version of himself. Fantastic writing. I love that. People thought it was gross. It was like, ew, that's incest. But, I mean, it's not really incest. It's, at worst, it's like masturbation because they're the same person. Either way, besides that, I thought it was great. But they get into a little fight. She sends him back to the TVA. She kills He Who Remains, and then the timeline just spins off into infinite timelines, which it had done in the past. So this is kind of like a cyclical thing. So it's just back to the beginning. There's a multiversal war, and since we're in Phase 4, which I think will be called the Multiverse Saga, Phases 1 through 3 were the Infinity Saga. So Phases 4 through whatever will be the Multiverse Saga. And I think they're going to defeat Kane. They're going to stabilize the timeline once again. But this time, there will be a different He Who Remains at the end. And for some reason, I think it's going to be like someone we know. I can't say exactly who, but someone we know. And I wouldn't be surprised if once again it is a Jonathan Majors. And it's like, this is just how it is. This is how it always was going to be. Uh, I'll be needing somebody again to stabilize the timeline. So yeah, we'll see. And this ties directly into What If, because What If goes over stories that take place in these mini timelines. Uh, and of course, we got Spider-Man: No Way Home, which deals with variants coming in as well. Um, and I think I covered everything. I'm not exactly sure. Is there anything else I like? Oh, some of my theories that were proven false. One, I thought it was going to be that every variant working in the TVA is a Loki variant. That was proven wrong. At one point, I thought Casey was going to be like the big bad. That was proven wrong. Uh, just so much. But yeah, I can't wait till season two. I hope he and Sylvie and whoever else, I hope they appear in Multiverse of Madness, because everybody and their mom is supposed to appear in there. And I'm talking about variants out the hoo-ha. You got Patrick Stewart, Professor X. You got Ian McKellen, Magneto. Ian, what's his name? Grifford, whoever who played Mr. Fantastic, Fantastic Four. He's supposed to be appearing. Tom Cruise, Iron Man. We will see. Um, but that is it for me, guys. Remember, you can view this spoiler review on YouTube and the blog flipfrogllc.com/flixfrog. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And please, pretty please, everybody, hey, come here, listen. Make sure that you subscribe. Yes, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, everything. Make sure you like, comment, and share. The next Let's Talk Spoilers I will do will be Spider-Man No Way Home. Very excited to see that one and get that one out as soon as possible. But until next time, I'll be seeing you.